Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us on this pre-Thanksgiving weekend. I'm glad you're here, and I'm very grateful to all of you listening or watching here today. I also want to give a shout out to Iyabo Onipede for her fabulous and thought-provoking talk of last week. She talked about gratitude, she talked about Thanksgiving, and she talked a lot about the real history of Thanksgiving. Not only the history that we learned, but the history that we perhaps didn't learn, and how we need to widen our circle of gratitude to be grateful for all who brought us to where we are today, for all who contributed to the blessings that we have here today. In addition, I really recommend that you check out Compassionate Atlanta, all they are doing in the areas of racial justice, equity, and healing. Many thanks to Iyabo. So far this month, we've been exploring how we can live lives of gratitude fully and joyfully, to live from a place in our hearts of simple thankfulness, even in times like now that are full of uncertainty and discord and division. It's times like this that make me even more grateful for communities like ours, like One World, communities of people who believe and live that we are all one, and our highest calling is to love, even when it's not easy. In the face of fear and sometimes even despair, we continue to speak out for peace, compassion, a welcoming of differences, and the real need to reach out and remain connected to each other. We keep our focus on the truth that matters. We know that conflict can never create peace. We cannot fear ourselves and hate ourselves into a loving world. We know that we must learn to see our world and see each other differently than we have in the past. This is why I am so glad that this month we are focusing on gratitude, on seeing our world differently through eyes of love and through eyes of unity. There are challenges we face for sure, but they do not diminish the truth that we know. They only tell us that our path is not done, our job is not done. At the end of the day, living gratefully is simply seeing the world differently. We can still choose to see our world through eyes that see blessing. The world is a holy place. One of my favorite wisdom teachers of the current age, Father Richard Rohr, I've talked about him a lot, teaches that organized religion, sometimes makes the mistake, and many of us buy into it, of teaching that the world is divided into the sacred and what many call the profane or the worldly. We have our regular times during the week, and then on a particular day, at the appointed time, we go to church or temple or mosque or synagogue, wherever we go, and then we participate in the holy. When we're done, we're out the door, we are strengthened for our jump back into the non-holy, which we define as the rest of the week, as we leave the building and move back into our lives. That is not the way it is. We don't think that God is only in certain places at certain times. We here know that it's all God. We are of God. I don't even want to say that we are surrounded, because that implies separation. We are of God, all of it, all the time. Now appearing as me, now as you, but still all the same, all one, all manifestations of the holy. There is no distinction between the sacred and the rest of life. And that is what gratitude teaches us. Rohr writes that the whole universe and all events are sacred doorways to the divine for those who know how to see. This is why we have our daily practices, our spiritual practices, because they train us how to see differently. Rohr challenges us to open our eyes and awaken to the truth that, as Teilhard de Chardin wrote, the world is in truth a holy place. It is that awareness that moves us beyond theology, beyond theory, to practice, to real life, to the interactions we have every day, to every moment of our days, and to awakening. It's not just a holy place when all is going well. It for sure is a more pleasant place, but it's difficult times that call us to grow, that demand that we show up as we deeply and truly are. Those are gifts as well, perhaps greater gifts. Every day is a new opportunity, entirely unearned, to learn to love, to reach out, to find new dimensions to our connection with Spirit. It's a gift every moment. Malcolm Muggeridge writes, "All happenings, great and small, are parables whereby God speaks. The art of life is to get the message." It's our practices that teach us and awaken us to the ability to get the message. Gratitude opens us up to God's message in all events. So what does that mean for us here? It means that we continue to live gratefully and joyfully, navigating our challenges with the help of Spirit, our practices, and each other. In her book, The Places That Scare You, Buddhist teacher Pema Chodron writes, "We can let the circumstances of our lives harden us so that we become increasingly resentful and afraid, or we can let them soften us and make us kinder and more open. We always have this choice." It is a choice. We can choose fear, or we can decide to choose compassion, courage, and love. Which opens you up? Which leads you to greater connection with Spirit? Which more truly reflects the truth of who you are? A life lived with gratitude arises when we remain in those energies that open us up, that soften our hearts, that build us up, that reflect the truth of who we are. Joy, wonder, surprise, humility, hope. It's why we maintain a spiritual practice. It's not always easy. However, it is possible, it is doable, and we find that those attributes, those ways of looking at the world, combine to create a grateful heart, which is the absolute foundation of a joyous and a fulfilling life. So in his book, The Science of Getting Rich, great title, Wallace Wattles wrote that the soul is always grateful that lives in closer connection to God. He wrote that the mental attitude of gratitude draws the mind into closer touch with the source from which blessings come. We cannot exercise much power without gratitude, because it is gratitude that keeps us connected to power. It is when we are in touch with source from which blessings come, from which our power comes, that our lives can transform. This is a captivating thought to me. It is gratitude that keeps us connected to the power of source. It is gratitude that keeps us connected to the power of source. As I thought about this point, I remembered those moments when I felt most connected to Spirit, and I invite you just to take a second and do the same. What state of your heart opened you to that connection? What energy was at work in you that made you, even for a moment, the open channel to the divine? You know that feeling of connection, wholeness, oneness, of balance. For me, it has always been the energy of gratitude. Not gratitude for a specific thing, this item, this day, even this person, but gratitude for being here, for every moment, for the good surrounding me, all a gift of love freely given, for the privilege of being here in this life right now, as messy as it sometimes is. It is an open energy, knowing that we are held in the flow of creation and that our lives are wonderful gifts unfolding for our good, if only we are aware and thankful. In his book, Legacy of the Heart, Wayne Mueller, great author, I highly recommend him if you haven't read any Wayne Mueller. In his book, Legacy of the Heart, he wrote, "We truly need little to feel abundant. When we pay attention, a single breath can fill us to overflowing. The touch of a loved one or a moment of sunlight can bring delight to our hearts. The simple gesture of someone's hand resting on our own, a single word of kindness, or a small gift of appreciation can be all we need to feel a tremendous sense of care and well-being. We need so little to feel loved. All we need to do is begin to notice the multitude of tiny gifts and small miracles that punctuate each day we are alive." So what is he telling us? to be on the lookout for small miracles. They are everywhere. Gifts are everywhere, if only we can see them. Gratitude is the energy that opens our eyes, opens our vision so we can see them. So a while back, I talked about our ability to keep walking toward our good, even if we could not see the end of the trail. We can see the next step. It is gratitude that keeps us on this path, that keeps our channel open to discern what our next step should be. Gratitude, deep awareness of the magnificence of creation all around us, seen and unseen, is truly the energy of co-creation. It releases our power to be the expression of divine mind that we are, to use our gifts in this world. His Holiness the Dalai Lama teaches, appreciate how rare and full of potential your situation is in this world, then take joy in it and use it to your best advantage. Be aware, be joyful, and step out and act. We are each in a situation of unique potential, and gratitude enables us to recognize it, take joy in it, and move forward with strength, focus, and energy. So when do we have the opportunity to appreciate our situation? Always in the midst of our ordinary days, every day. It is then that we learn to develop the habit of thankfulness. It's in the right now. Gratitude drives us into the present from wherever we have been, into the wonders of this moment. Eckhart Tolle teaches that it is through gratitude for the present moment that the spiritual dimension of life opens up. Gratitude is always for the gift you are experiencing right now. One of my resources in preparing this talk was Brother David Steindl-Rast's excellent book, Gratefulness, the Heart of Prayer. For those of you who are not familiar with the work of Brother David, I encourage you to read it and also go to his website, which is gratefulness.org. He is a Benedictine monk. He was born in 1926 in Vienna, Austria, where he experienced the horror of the Nazi Anschluss before emigrating to the U.S. In 1953, he joined a newly founded Benedictine community in Elmira, New York, called Mount Savior Monastery, and he is now a senior member there. Several years later, he was sent by his abbot to participate in Buddhist-Christian dialogue. He co-founded the Center for Spiritual Studies in 1968. In 1975, he received the Martin Buber Award for his achievement in building bridges between religious traditions. He has a June of 2013 TED Talk entitled Want to be happy, be grateful, and I encourage you to watch it. Brother David calls gratefulness the spontaneous response of the human heart to the gratuitously given. And he teaches that all we have is gratuitously given. He writes, what counts on your path to fulfillment is that we remember the great truth that moments of surprise want to teach us. Everything is gratuitous. Everything is a gift. The degree to which we are awake to this truth is the measure of our gratefulness. He writes that an essential component of gratitude is the willingness to be surprised by the bounty around us, the unexpected goodness that just shows up. The example he gives is a rainbow, and that actually reminded me of the time that some of you may remember of a rainbow at the old building, our first building on Shallowford Road. You may remember that. I think it might have been our last service in that building. And suddenly, remember, somebody saw a rainbow right over the building. It was like, whoa, we just piled outside like a bunch of kids. Do you remember the energy of that moment? It was just a joyous moment where we saw something gratuitously given. We couldn't believe it. We were just thrilled. It was just a gift, and we accepted it with joy. Brother David reminds us that every moment in life is gratuitously given, and our happiness and gratefulness increase when we recognize that fact. That is the secret to living in gratitude, taking nothing for granted, realizing that it is all a matter of grace. Such an attitude maintains us in the present and opens our minds and hearts to all the beauty and the wonder that surround us. Gratitude is not limited for a gift you may just have received. It's an attitude of the heart that enriches us with the willingness to see the good, sometimes even before the good appears. In the four Gospels, there are 24 instances in which Jesus prays in public, and half of them are prayers of thanksgiving. One example is feeding the 4,000, which is in Matthew chapter 15. It reads, "Then Jesus called his disciples to him and said, I have compassion for the crowd, because they have been with me now for 3 days and have nothing to eat. And I do not want to send them away hungry, for they might faint on the way." Compassion and love. The disciples said to him, "Where are we going to get enough bread in the desert to feed so great a crowd?" They looked around, they said, "There's a lot of people and we have no food. This is not going to work out." Jesus asked them, "How many loaves have you?" They said, 7, and a few small fish. Again, you must be joking. This will never work out. Then, ordering the crowd to sit on the ground, Jesus took the 7 loaves and the fish, and after giving thanks, he broke them and gave them to the disciples, and the disciples gave them to the crowds. And all of them ate and were filled, and they took up the broken pieces left over, 7 baskets full. Those who had eaten were 4,000 men, besides women and children. So what did Jesus do? He just broke the rules. He completely ignored those around him who saw only what was in front of them and knew for a fact that 7 loaves and a few fish were just not going to work out to feed all these hungry people. He knew the greater truth, the higher truth, that God's abundance surrounded them. And so he gave thanks, knowing that it would appear and meet their needs. He approached this event knowing that the good was to come, and he expressed gratitude with that certainty in his heart. I don't know about you, but so often in my life, what have I done? I have waited until I saw what showed up before I decided whether I wanted to be grateful or not. I reserved the right to be ungrateful unless what showed up met my preconception of my greater good. That is a bit arrogant. I know what makes me happy in the moment, what avoids pain for me right then. But do I know what lessons a particular event will bring? Do I know how this event will spin out, how my greater good will unfold? I don't. Right now, many of us are going through stressful and difficult times, and we simply cannot see over that next horizon to know how it will turn out or what will happen. But we express gratitude for life right now, even if events ultimately don't turn out as we plan or hope. This is where we exercise our power of choice. We see hope where we might as well cave in to fear. We know that God is in all our moments. William Arthur Ward put it this way. He said, "Gratitude can transform common days into Thanksgivings, turn routine jobs into joy, and change ordinary opportunities into blessings." When we look at ordinary things that normally pass unnoticed in a new way, we see the many gifts that surround us. Health, food, transportation, warmth, a safe place to sleep, connections with those who love us. We do what Eyre spoke of last week, and we widen the circle of our gratefulness to all who have played a part in bringing us our many blessings. We see the beautiful in the ordinary, the blessing in the commonplace, the gift in all of it. When we do that, we truly see the world as the holy and shining place that it is. So I invite you this Thanksgiving weekend to move forward in that energy of blessing, of awareness, of joy, of connection, of gratefulness. Have a fabulous Thanksgiving holiday. Be safe, and thank you again so much for joining us.